Welcome to Patriot Network TV. I'm Professor Terry J. Lovell, and we're doing another episode to talk about the Constitution. I have several friends who are certified public accountants, and they do a lot of advising to small business people. So I went back to the Constitution, and I was looking at in the Constitution. Now, if you're following along with me, if you wrote to the Heritage Foundation, and remember, you can go to their website, heritagefoundation.org, and they'll send you your free copy of the Constitution and the Declaration. Well, in section, let's see here, where am I? Article 1, section 8, and excuse me for looking down, to establish uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. So in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, it says that one of the duties of the federal government is to encourage a uniform bankruptcy code. Now, why is that? And I want to attack this from 3 or 4 different angles today. I want to talk about bankruptcy in a traditional sense. Bankruptcy comes, and it's basically, it comes from an Italian word. It comes from when the entrepreneurs, the insurance entrepreneurs in Venice and Genoa would sit out on the benches in the park, and they would, when a ship was going to sail off, they would underwrite. They would be, here's some business jargon for you. The bottom line, at the very end of the manifest, they drew the bottom line, and they added up all of the value of the cargo. And under the bottom line, the underwriters wrote in what portion of the cargo they would insure. So in Venice and Genoa, the insurance agents would sit on these beautiful benches in these beautiful parks, and they would underwrite, that is, sign underneath the bottom line, underwrite for what part of the cargo they'd insure. Now, if the ship unfortunately sank, they had to pay off. And if they didn't pay off, the other merchants, the other insurance agents, the other insurance underwriters, and other people within the community would come and they would break the bench that this person sat on. They would banco-rupt them. They would break their bench. So bankruptcy dates back at least to the Renaissance. And if you look at Old Testament scripture, every 7 years we forgave loans, and 7 times 7, every 49 years, all loans were forgiven. So it's part and parcel of the Judeo-Christian construction of reality that debt will not be a permanent part of our life. Now, in England, and this was mentioned in Madison's writings, Jefferson's writings, there were multiple references to debtor's prison in England and how a man could fall into debt and never get out of debt. As a matter of fact, he could die in debtor's prison, and they would go get his oldest son and put that young man in debtor's prison until the quote-unquote debt was paid. Well, in the Declaration of Independence, the mission statement for the United States, we say that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then we go on to the operating manual, the Constitution, and we specifically mention bankruptcy being a uniform federal duty. Now, what does this mean? This means that the Founding Fathers had in mind a specific, innovative, entrepreneurial culture where we wanted to encourage businessmen and women to take risk. We wanted to encourage them to try to come up with new and innovative processes, to develop new products and new services, and create jobs. The magic of capitalism is, as Adam Smith would say, the invisible hand of the marketplace causing the best use of the resources. But the true magic of capitalism is it creates jobs. And it creates jobs, Schumpeter's wonderful phrase, creative destruction, that, every time there's a new product, it destroys the old product, and there's this process of creative destruction. Well, capitalism can only work in a system where people have faith that things are going to get better. Adam Smith was preaching financial salvation 6 days a week and preaching spiritual salvation on Sundays. It's important to realize that the Founding Fathers were enamored of Smith. They were enamored of a view of mankind that said, we get to try new, wonderful, audacious things. And if it doesn't work, we want a system that allows you to say, I reasonably relied upon the following assumptions to start this business. If those assumptions are all wrong, we're going to allow for bankruptcy, for banco-rupt, for breaking the bench, and allow you to start over because you as an entrepreneur are just too valuable of a commodity to crush emotionally, physically, in terms of your business and economic sense, it's too important to have you try new businesses. Now, when I was a graduate student at Arizona State University, the first study I was involved in looked at 100 entrepreneurs in the Valley of the Sun, in Phoenix. And the only thing that every one of those people had in common was a business bankruptcy. At least one. Every one of those entrepreneurs had a business bankruptcy in common. A couple of them had filed bankruptcy multiple times. Notice that I said filed. I didn't say commit. As a kid growing up in Montana, we were taught in the church, in school, by our parents, that bankruptcy was a bad thing. The broader constitutional view of bankruptcy is as follows. If you have made reasonable assumptions and you've relied reasonably upon, well, the economy should grow at 4% and we have to go to the bank and take a 30-year note on to get the following pieces of equipment and to build the main warehouse where the stuff is stored, where our products are stored, or where we have, our workhouse where we have the trucks and the equipment for the job site for the work we're doing. If it's all based on a reasonable set of assumptions, then the legal theory involved is called promissory estoppel, and we say we reasonably relied upon the bids and promises of other people, and those have all gone south on us. So now the question is, how do I protect what the founding fathers wanted protected, which is my entrepreneurial spirit, my entrepreneurial intelligence, my entrepreneurial personality? How do we keep you creating new jobs, creating new products, creating new services? My friends who are CPAs who are looking at small businesses one after another that have just been absolutely gutted by the recession are looking at many of their clients now and saying, you need to seriously consider reorganization, you need to consider bankruptcy. And their clients are very, very angry at this, and oh no, I'm not a loser, I'm not gonna commit bankruptcy. The Constitution, as thought through by the founders, realized that the business cycle went up and down and up and down and up and down. And over time, if we wanted to have an entrepreneurial, innovative, free enterprise economy that really allowed for the greatest amount of job growth, the entrepreneur had to take the responsibility of having the new, good, brilliant idea, but they also had to be tough enough to say, we got to close the door on this business. Right now in America, with unemployment, and the unemployment measure that's most important is what in California is called U6, and that is the unemployed, the underemployed, the discouraged worker, and it's basically an overall measure of what's going on. U6 in California is almost 20%. U6 nationally is almost 20%, 1 in 5 people. If you're a contractor, if you're a small business person, and you've been holding on and holding on, you used to have 45 employees, now you got 10 employees. And you've been holding on and your accountant's been telling you it's time to reorganize, it's time to think bankruptcy, I want you to listen, not just to your accountant, I want you to listen to the voice of the founders. We want a vibrant economy. You as an entrepreneur are a unique resource and asset that we must have. It's time to go back to the knowledge and wisdom of the founders. They tell you, chapter and verse, section 1, article 8, clause 4, they tell you that bankruptcy has to be a federal uniform code so that the entrepreneurial impulse, the entrepreneurial personality, the entrepreneurial reality is protected. It's time to consider what's the most patriotic thing to do. Ride the business all the way into the ground so it has zero value, or save capital, preserve capital to start a new business. It's time to think constitutionally. Now, in coming episodes, we're going to talk at length about how hard this is. We're going to talk about how hard the entrepreneurial lifestyle is and how hard innovation is. But we're going to build that into the view that the founders had. Democracy and capitalism are inexorably linked together. You can't have one without the other. The backbone of capitalism is entrepreneurial work. The backbone of democracy, one vote, one person in the policy marketplace. Capitalism, $1, one vote in the product or service marketplace. These two ideas are inexorably woven together, and if we don't save small business, small contractors, small business people in America, we're going to destroy this economy. So I'm asking you to really think, what would the founding fathers have done? What would the founding fathers have done? That's the question. And I want you to remember, Robert Morris, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, gave his entire fortune for the revolution and died in poverty, died literally bankrupt because he believed so deeply in the Constitution. Take a page from his book and preserve the capital and live to fight another day in the economic battle. We'll see you next week.